The wind howled through the tall trees as heavy rain poured from the sky. Dark clouds covered the moon, and thunder rolled across the night. Nathan pulled his hood tighter and walked faster through the wet forest path. He was out gathering firewood before the storm got worse, but then something strange made him stop. It was a sound, soft and weak, a cry not like a bird or wolf. It sounded more like a baby or a lost kitten. He froze, listening. There it was again, high-pitched and shaking. Nathan turned off his flashlight to listen better. He moved carefully through the trees. Following the cry, the sound led him to a thick bush covered in water. He bent down, brushed aside the branches, and gasped. Curled up on the muddy ground was a small creature. Its fur was soaked, its body trembling. It had large glowing eyes, too big for its tiny face. Its ears were long, bent at the tips, and its small paws were cut and bleeding. Nathan had never seen anything like it before. It wasn't a raccoon or a fox or any forest animal he knew. It looked like something from a dream, or maybe another world. He reached out slowly. "It's okay," he whispered. "I won't hurt you." The creature looked up, eyes wide. It didn't run, but it tried to stand. Its legs wobbled, and it collapsed again with a weak cry. Nathan couldn't leave it there. He took off his coat, gently wrapped it around the little thing. It didn't fight or bite. Instead, it curled into his arms and let out a soft, almost human sigh. He carried it back to his cabin, heart beating fast. The forest felt darker now, the rain colder. But the creature in his arms was warm barely, but still alive inside the cabin. He set the creature on a soft blanket near the fireplace. It shivered and closed its eyes. Nathan lit the fire, boiled water, and brought a bowl close. He didn't know what it ate, so he placed pieces of bread, fruit, and meat nearby. The creature sniffed the meat first, then took a small bite. Its tiny hands were shaking, but it ate slowly. Nathan sat nearby, watching with quiet amazement. "What are you?" he asked softly. The creature looked at him, tilted its head, and blinked. It was the kind of look a child might give someone they didn't understand but wanted to trust. Hours passed, and the storm outside calmed. Nathan dozed off in a chair near the fireplace. When he woke up, the sun was rising, and light spilled through the windows. He looked toward the blanket, expecting the creature to be gone, but it was still there, sleeping peacefully, curled up like a cat. As he stood to check on it, he noticed something odd. The cuts on its paws were gone. No blood, no scar, just smooth skin and soft fur. Even more strange, its fur looked slightly longer, shinier, almost glowing in the morning light. Nathan crouched beside it. "Careful not to wake it," he whispered. "You're healing fast." Too fast. The creature stirred and opened its eyes. It looked directly at him, blinked twice, slowly. Then, to his shock, it reached out and gently touched his hand. It was a kind, gentle touch. Not like an animal. It was more like a person, saying thank you. Nathan felt something strange in that moment. Not fear, not confusion, but something deep. Like the feeling of meeting someone important, even if you didn't know why yet. He stayed by its side all day. When night came again, the creature stood on its own for the first time. It walked slowly to the window, stood on two legs for a moment, then dropped back to four. Nathan's eyes widened. Did he just see it walk like a human? Later that night, while writing in his journal, Nathan looked up and froze. The creature was staring at a piece of paper on the table. It tilted its head, then slowly dragged its paw across the wood. It made a shape, most like a symbol. Not random, not wild, but like writing. Nathan whispered, "You're not just a creature, are you?" The creature didn't answer, of course, but in its glowing eyes was a strange silence, not empty, but full of something hidden, a secret, waiting to be told. Nathan woke in the middle of the night to a strange sound. It wasn't the wind or the fire crackling. It was soft, like something being dragged on wood. He sat up slowly and looked across the room. The creature wasn't on the blanket anymore. His eyes searched the cabin in the dim light of the fireplace. Then he saw her. The little creature was sitting near the wooden floor, one paw stretched out. It was scratching something into the wood. Not wild scratching like an animal, but slow, careful marks, shapes, lines, patterns. Nathan stood up quietly, walked closer. He crouched and looked at the symbols. They weren't just random, they looked familiar. Like the ancient markings he once saw in a book about lost alien languages. The creature stopped when it noticed him watching. It turned to him slowly, its glowing eyes wide and full of emotion. Fear, sadness, and something else like it didn't want him to see too much yet. Nathan raised his hands gently. "It's okay," he whispered. "I'm not mad." The creature blinked once. Then erased the marks with its paw, like it didn't want him to understand too quickly. He sat down on the floor beside her, not too close. He looked at her, really looked. Her body looked slightly different than yesterday. Her limbs were a little longer, her fur a little shorter. It was like she was slowly changing, becoming more than what she appeared to be. Nathan reached out, not to touch, but to offer his hand. She looked at it, tilted her head, then leaned forward and pressed her paw against it. A soft warmth passed between them, and Nathan felt something strange. In his chest, a kind of connection, a deep feeling he couldn't explain. The rest of the night passed without a word. She slept close to the fire. And Nathan stayed awake, thinking who or what had he really brought into his home. The next morning, Nathan decided to test something. He picked up a pencil and a notepad. He sat across from the creature and drew a simple star. Then he pointed at it and looked at her. She stared for a moment, then took the pencil with her paw. Her grip was clumsy, but steady. She copied the star almost perfectly. Nathan's heart skipped a beat. He drew another, this time a moon. She copied it again, and then added something on her own, a symbol, a spiral he didn't recognize. He wrote the word moon under his drawing, then pointed, "Moon," he said clearly. She looked at the word, then at him. She opened her mouth slightly, and then, softly, almost like a breath, she repeated, "Moon?" Nathan dropped the pencil in shock. His eyes widened as he whispered, "You can speak." She flinched. Like she wasn't supposed to do that yet, but it was too late. He had heard it. She could learn, copy, even speak. This wasn't just some strange forest animal. This was something intelligent, something more. Something hidden in a small, fragile body. That evening, Nathan went outside to chop more wood. He kept looking over his shoulder, worried someone else might have seen her. The more he thought about it, the more it didn't feel like he had just found her. It felt like she had been sent or was hiding. He looked up at the sky, stars twinkling above the trees. There were so many things humans still didn't understand, and somehow, one of those mysteries was sleeping on a blanket inside his cabin. Later, as he returned, he saw her sitting on the table. Her eyes were closed, and her body was glowing slightly, not a bright glow, but soft, like a pulse. She opened her eyes slowly and looked right at him. He stepped inside and shut the door. Before he could say anything, she made a motion with her paw, a line across her chest, then pointed at him. Nathan didn't understand it right away, but then she repeated the word again, soft and clear, "Moon." Then she pointed at the window. Nathan looked outside and saw the full moon rising high in the sky. She looked back at him and whispered a second word, "Home." His heart dropped. She wasn't just a lost creature. She was someone far from home, someone trying to remember. And now she had started speaking, and he had no idea what would happen next. A strange vibration hummed through the ground. Nathan looked up from his tools, ears alert. It was barely noticeable, no sound, no wind, but something deep and steady. He stepped outside, scanning the trees. Birds weren't chirping, and the forest was too quiet. That's when he saw the light. A soft red glow flickered between the trees, far away but moving closer. Not fire, not flashlight, but something else, smooth, controlled, and unnatural. He quietly stepped back into the cabin and locked the door. His heart thudded in his chest. The little creature, no. The alien girl was sitting by the window. Her eyes were wide, her glowing pupils focused on the forest. She stood slowly, her small body shaking. Then she whispered a word Nathan didn't recognize. It sounded like a name, or maybe a warning. He crouched next to her, trying to understand. "What is it?" he asked. "What's coming?" Instead of answering, she moved to the corner of the room and curled up. Her glowing light faded into dim pulses. She was scared, really scared. Nathan grabbed the hunting rifle from above the door. He hadn't used it in years, but his fingers still remembered. Outside, the red light stopped. He peeked through a small crack in the wood wall. A tall figure stood among the tree's dark armor, thin and sharp. Its helmet had no eyes, only a smooth mask. It held something like a scanner, sweeping it slowly across the area. Then, a second figure joined the first. This one spoke in a language Nathan didn't know, but one word was clear, repeated twice. Vela, Vela. He looked at the girl in the corner. She didn't move, but her glow grew slightly stronger. That was her name, he realized, the name they were searching for. They knew she was here. Nathan held his breath as one of the aliens raised the scanner. Toward the cabin, it blinked green, then red, then beeped twice. The taller figure turned its head straight toward the house. Nathan stepped in front of her. If they were coming in, they'd have to get through him first. A soft hiss echoed outside. The door rattled, then stopped. Silence, then boom. The side wall of the cabin exploded. Smoke and dust filled the air. As something metal rolled across the floor and beeped, without thinking, Nathan dove at the object, kicked it back out the hole it came from. A second later, it exploded outside in a bright white flash. Vela screamed not loudly, but with a force that shook the walls. Her body pulsed with light, and her small shape rose into the air for a second. The pulse sent waves across the cabin like wind. Nathan stared in shock. She had powers he couldn't even understand. The attackers paused, maybe confused or hurt. Vela dropped back down, her body trembling. Nathan picked her up and ran through the back door into the trees. Bullets or lasers zipped past them, striking trees, slicing branches. He ran until his lungs burned. She clung to his chest, glowing brighter now. She whispered one word in English, weak but clear. "Sorry." They hid beneath an old fallen tree. Nathan held her close, trying to keep her warm. The aliens searched the area but moved away slowly. After a long while, everything went quiet again. Nathan stayed hidden until sunrise. When they returned to the cabin, most of it was burned or broken. He walked through the ruins, holding her in his arms. She looked around, eyes full of sadness. "They came for you," Nathan said softly. She nodded, slow and tired. "You're not just lost," he added. "You're being hunted." She looked up at him, then reached out and placed her small hand on his chest. It glowed where she touched him, just for a moment. Then she whispered, "You. Safe." Nathan didn't fully understand what she meant, but he knew one thing for sure. She was no ordinary creature, and those who were after her would return. This time, though, he wouldn't be unprepared. This time, he would fight for her, even if it cost him everything. Nathan didn't notice the change at first. He had been busy fixing the roof with metal scraps and leftover wood. The cabin was damaged but still standing. Smoke still clung to the walls from the attack. And Vela hadn't spoken a word all day. She sat by the broken window, her eyes staring into the distance. Her small body was wrapped in a blanket, her glow dim. Nathan thought maybe she was weak from using too much energy. Or maybe she was just scared, but something was shifting in the air. A strange warmth settled inside the cabin. Even though the fire was low, it wasn't heat from the flames, it was coming from her. Not in bursts, not wild, but slow and steady. Like something inside her had started to awaken. Nathan came closer, holding a bowl of warm soup. "You need to eat," he said gently. "It'll help you feel better." She didn't look at the soup. Instead, she looked up at him. Her eyes had changed. They weren't just glowing now. They had shape, depth, color. They looked more human than before. Nathan paused, confused. Then she spoke clearly, softly, and without stuttering. "Thank you," she said. He dropped the bowl, and it shattered on the floor. Her voice was calm, gentle, almost sad. Nathan stepped back, heart pounding. You can talk." She stood up slowly, and the blanket fell from her shoulders. Nathan gasped. Her body was changing in front of him. The fur was pulling back into smooth skin, her limbs stretching, her fingers growing longer, her feet reshaping. Her face was the last thing to change. Her ears shortened. Her mouth shifted, and her hair grew. Long silver strands fell across her shoulders. Glowing like threads of light, she stood there, silent, breathing softly. She wasn't an animal anymore. She was a girl, maybe 15 or 16 in human age. Beautiful, otherworldly, and shining in the firelight. Nathan couldn't speak. All he could do was stare. Vela looked down at her own hands, flexing her fingers. She turned her palms over, as if seeing them for the first time. Then she looked up at him with a deep sadness in her voice. "This is who I really am," she whispered. He sat down slowly, still trying to understand. She took a step forward, then another. There was no fear in her eyes now. Only truth, and something heavier like regret. "I didn't mean to trick you," she said. "I was hiding." "Hiding from what?" he asked, voice low. "From them," she said, "from everyone." She sat across from him, folding her legs like a human. Nathan noticed her body still had faint lines of glowing blue-like circuits under her skin. He didn't know if they were veins or armor or something else entirely, but they pulsed with life. "Why me?" he asked. "Why here?" Her answer came slowly. "My escape pod landed here. I didn't know where I was. I didn't know if humans would hurt me too. But I felt your heart," she added. "You were kind, even when you didn't know what I was." Nathan felt a strange lump in his throat. He had never asked for this, never expected his quiet life in the woods to become part of a secret war. But now, everything had changed. "Who were those things that came for you?" he asked. Her eyes turned hard. "They're called the Kralek," she said. "They want control of the galaxy. They take power by force. I am the last of my line, the only one with the gift." "What gift?" She raised her hand, and a soft light formed above her palm. A small ball of energy floated upward, spinning. Then it spread into a glowing flower made of light. It hovered there for a moment, then vanished. "I can create," she said. "Things from memory, from thought. They fear what I can become, what I could build." Nathan leaned back, staring at her in silence. "You're like a weapon to them," she nodded. "But I don't want war," she whispered. "I just wanted to survive." Nathan stood up and walked toward the broken door. The stars were bright above, quiet and distant. He looked back at her, sitting in the firelight, her silver hair glowing, and he realized he couldn't send her away. Not now, not ever. He turned to her and said, "If they come again, I'll fight for you." Her eyes widened in surprise. "You don't even know me. I don't have to." He replied, You trusted me when you were weak. Now it's my turn." Vela smiled for the first time. A real smile, and for the first time since arriving on Earth, she felt something stronger than fear. She felt safe. The rain had stopped, but the wind carried something strange. A chill that didn't belong to the weather crept through the cracks of the rebuilt cabin, through the walls, through her skin. Vela stood by the window, unmoving, staring into the dark woods. Something in her eyes had changed. She had not spoken since the night of her full transformation. Not even a whisper. Nathan could feel the weight in the air whenever he looked at her, as if she was no longer in the room with him, but trapped somewhere deep inside her mind. He watched her closely as she traced a finger across the window glass. She drew symbols again, this time more detailed, more ancient. They shimmered for a second before fading. He didn't interrupt. Not yet. Later that night, Nathan woke to the sound of soft crying. He grabbed his lantern and followed the noise. It led him to the back of the cabin where Vela sat alone on the cold floor, her hands covering her face, her body shaking. He knelt beside her, careful not to startle her. She didn't flinch this time. Instead, she whispered something, barely loud enough to hear, "They're gone." Nathan leaned closer. "Who's gone?" he asked gently. "My family," she said, her voice full of pain. "I remember now." She looked up at him, her eyes glowing softly but filled with tears. "They were hiding me," she continued. "My parents, my brother, even the guards. Everyone they knew the Kralek were hunting me, but they didn't run." Nathan listened without saying a word. He saw the memories playing in her eyes, flashes of fire, screams, ships in the sky. "I was sent away in a pod," she said. "They stayed behind to give me time. I begged them to come, but they forced the launch." Her voice cracked as she spoke, "And I watched everything burn from above. I saw the palace fall. I saw their lights disappear." Nathan put a hand gently on her shoulder. She didn't move away this time. He wanted to say something, but words felt too small for a pain that deep. So he just stayed beside her, letting silence speak for both of them. After some time, she took a deep breath. "There's more," she said, her voice calmer now. "I wasn't just born with a gift. I was created." Nathan blinked, confused. "What do you mean?" Vela stood and walked to the center of the room. She placed both hands over her heart and closed her eyes. A beam of blue light pulsed from her chest, rising to the ceiling like a pillar. It shimmered and spun. And then the air above her changed. Floating image appeared, an old alien city made of crystal towers and glowing rivers. People walked through shining halls, their skin like hers, silver and bright. She opened her eyes and spoke again. "I was born like them, but my mind was altered. My thoughts, my memories, my power was all designed to awaken slowly." Nathan stared at the vision above her. It showed a young version of Vela, hooked to machines, surrounded by scientists. "They feared the Kralek would destroy everything," she said. "So they made me a living key." "What kind of key?" Nathan asked quietly. "To restart civilization if it ever fell." She answered, "My power wasn't just to create. It was to rebuild, to bring back life, to remember lost history." Suddenly, the vision shifted. He saw a dark shadow sweeping across the city, a storm swallowing buildings whole. He heard screams again, metal tearing, ships crashing, and in the middle of it, Vela's cry of pain echoed across time. She fell to her knees as the image faded. Nathan rushed to her side and held her. Her body shook violently, as if the memories were ripping through her. "I couldn't save them," she whispered. "I was too small, too slow." Nathan looked at her, holding her face in his hands. "You're still here," he said firmly. "You survived, and you're not alone anymore." Vela opened her eyes again. There was still pain in them, but now, also fire. A quiet strength burning beneath the sadness. I don't want to run anymore. She said, I want to fight. Nathan nodded slowly. Then we fight, he said. But not just for you or your world, for every world they've tried to destroy. She smiled faintly. And for the first time since her memories returned, her glow was steady again, no longer flickering. No longer dim, but strong and full of purpose. Outside, in the distant sky, a faint red flash appeared. And faded, the Kralek had not given up, but now? Neither had she. The sky cracked without warning. A flash of red tore through the early morning clouds. Nathan dropped the axe in his hand and turned toward the sound. A long, burning streak cut across the sky, right and fast, then split in two. Something was coming, and it was coming fast, inside the cabin. Vela stood still, eyes glowing. She had felt them before they arrived. Not just a feeling, but a pull, deep in her blood. The Kralek had found her again, and this time they weren't sending scouts. They were sending everything. Nathan burst through the door, breathing hard. They're here, he said, but she was already moving. She walked past him into the open field behind the cabin, barefoot and silent. Her silver hair whipped in the rising wind. Her body now fully shifted into her true form, shimmered in the light. He followed her, rifle in hand. But something about her now made him stop. She looked different, not afraid. Not weak, but calm and ready. In the sky, 3 black ships circled above like birds of prey. They hovered with a deep, humming sound, scanning the ground below. Then, one of them opened. Figures in dark armor began dropping from the sky like shadows with wings. Nathan raised his weapon, aiming at the first shape. Vela lifted her hand and gently pushed the barrel down. No, she said, her voice quiet but full of power. This is mine. The Kralek landed in the field with heavy steps. 10 of them in total, tall and covered in sharp, dark plating. Their faces hidden behind glowing red masks. One stepped forward, his voice cold, metallic. You were warned, princess, he said. You were made to obey. Nathan stepped beside her. She's not obeying anyone, he said. Not today. The Kralek looked at him and laughed. A human, defending a weapon. Strange how weak creatures love broken things. Vala's eyes flared with blue light. I am not broken, she said, her voice echoing with unnatural power. She stepped forward, the ground trembling beneath her feet. Your fear built me, your cruelty shaped me, but your mistake was letting me survive. She raised both hands, palms open. A pulse of energy exploded outward, knocking the front line of Kralek to the ground. Nathan shielded his face. Stunned by the force, it wasn't magic hit, was something deeper. Ancient and living, Vela's body lifted into the air slowly. Rings of light spun around her, forming symbols, shapes, and language unknown to man. The grass around her burned into patterns, glowing like circuits. The Kralek stood again and opened fire, but the bullets didn't reach her. They stopped mid-air, frozen like insects in ice. She moved her fingers slightly, and the bullets turned back faster than they came. 3 Kralek fell before they could react. Nathan had never seen anything like it. Not in war, not in history. Not even in dreams. She was a living storm. A voice of a dead empire. A girl born not just to survive, but to change everything. The Kralek leader roared and charged. He leaped into the air with a blade of black plasma. But Vela caught him mid-strike, holding him by the throat with one glowing hand. You took my family, she whispered. You won't take my future. Her hand flared. And the leader screamed as his armor cracked and exploded. The rest tried to run, but the air bent around them. A barrier of light rose from the earth, sealing them in. Nathan stood in the middle of it all. Stunned, she turned to him then, floating down slowly. her glow fading to a soft shimmer. "I didn't mean for you to see me like this," she said. He looked at her with wide eyes. "I think I was always meant to." He replied. The Kralek were gone, destroyed or captured, but the sky still held one ship. It hovered above, waiting, watching. Then a signal came through the air. A voice, female, deep and full of regret. "Vela," the voice said. "Come home. The throne is waiting." She looked up, then looked at Nathan. "I have to go," she whispered. He said nothing at first, just stepped closer. "Only if you want to," he said, "but you're not going alone this time." She smiled gently, and for the first time in her life, she felt like she belonged somewhere, not because of duty or power, but because someone had chosen hers as she was. The sky was clear again. No fire, no storm, no enemy ships. Just the morning sun rising behind the trees. Golden light spilled across the field where the battle had ended. And in the center stood Nathan and Vela side by side, silent and breathing. For a long time, neither spoke. They didn't need to. Everything that needed to be said had already passed between them in looks. In the way he had stood beside her when others ran. In the way she had chosen to fight, not for power, but for something. Far softer trust, the ship above still hovered, waiting, to cast a long shadow over the ground like a reminder that her story wasn't finished. Not yet. Vela stepped forward slowly. Her glow had faded now, but she was still radiant. Not with energy, but with peace. She lifted her hand, and a beam of light reached up from her palm, a signal to the ship. It descended, not fast, not threatening. And when it landed, the door opened with a soft hiss. Inside stood a figure in royal robestall, gentle and clearly of her kind. The woman bowed her head and said, "Your place is ready." Princess Vela didn't answer right away. She looked back at Nathan, her eyes searching his. She remembered the cold floor of the cabin. The fire he had built when she was shivering and silent, the way he had believed in her. Even before she believed in herself, "You're not a prisoner anymore," Nathan said quietly. "You can choose now." She looked down at her hands. Once they had only glowed with fear. Now they held power but also memory. She turned back to the ship and took one step forward. But stopped. "My name is known across galaxies," she said softly. "But I never felt like it belonged to me until I heard you speak it." The woman in the ship waited silently, respectful. Vela turned fully toward Nathan again, and then without warning walked past the ship, not into it, but around it, back toward the trees. Nathan followed her, confused. "Where are you going?" She stopped beside the tall grass, where the morning wind blew gently. She knelt and touched the earth. "This is where I became myself," she said. "This is where I found my voice." She looked up at him with a small smile. "I want to return, not to a throne, not to a palace, but to a quiet place with stars above and firewood below." He blinked, unsure if he heard her right. "You're not going." "Not now," she said. "Maybe not ever." "They need a ruler," he said. "They'll find one," she replied. "But I need something else." Nathan didn't answer. His heart was too full to speak. She walked past him into the cabin. Now half rebuilt, inside everything was the same, simple, peaceful, human. She picked up the old blanket she once hid under, folded it neatly, and set it down. Then she found the broken soup bowl from that first night. She held it in both hands, and it glowed softly, then repaired itself with a spark. He stepped inside and leaned against the doorframe, watching her. "You're really staying?" She looked at him, eyes bright. "Would you let me?" He laughed, the sound rough and full of relief. "I'd build you a second room," he said. She smiled wider. "Only if it has a window for stargazing." The ship waited for a while longer, then lifted silently into the sky. No anger, no threateningly. Understanding, they knew her choice had been made. The forest returned to quiet. The birds sang again, and the morning continued like it had always done. Inside the small cabin, 2 cups sat on the table. Steam rising from both, she sat on one side. He on the other, not speaking, just being, not rulers, not warriors. Just 2 souls who found each other at the edge of the galaxy, and though war might return someday, and though her power might still shake worlds, for now, in this little part of the universe, she had chosen peace, and he had chosen her.